Americans are watching as President Trump chooses to kidnap and kill his own citizens as opposed to lowering prices. Canadians are watching that in horror.
This is a totally bizarre panel on CTV News. The Canadian mainstream media is actually losing its mind with Trump derangement syndrome. Exhibit A.
What are the political implications of Trump's latest threat, particularly ahead of the return of the House of Commons tomorrow? Here to weigh in is our Sunday strategy session. Kathleen Monk is former director of communications to the late Jack Layton.
She has a bizarre statement in here, this woman.
James Moore is a former Conservative cabinet minister. And Scott Reid is former communications director to Prime Minister Paul Martin. Hi, everybody.
This guy's another beauty. I just did a video on him. That guy is TDS to the extreme. I don't even know who on this panel would win the title for most Trump derangement syndrome. I think it's a tie between the guy with the blue glasses and the woman here in the pink.
Good to see you on this Sunday. I appreciate you making the time. Scott, I'll start with you. The Prime Minister stopped to talk to reporters today, didn't engage too much on any communications with Trump, just kind of downplayed actually how significant whatever happened with China was. What does that tell you, and how big of a deal do you think this is politically for him?
Well, it's significant, but I thought the Prime Minister's tone was bang on and appropriate because Donald Trump is a presidential equivalent of a metal spoon in the microwave these days. He's sparking and lighting up all over the place. It's not just...
He said that in another interview. Does he think that's a good line? Oh, he's in a microwave. That's the second time he's used that line.
Canada. He unloaded 72 social postings. So he's lashing out at everyone. We have to take serious his posting and his suggestion that he may oppose a 100% across the board tariffs, but I'm not sure that it is a serious threat. And in that context, taking a bit of time, pointing out that Canada is not negotiating a free trade agreement with China, as Minister LeBlanc did, pointing out as the Prime Minister did, that there would be...
Steve Bannon is totally correct when he says that the people on Canadian television are hostile to America. He's right.
Right now, Canada is rapidly changing. And I'm going to tell you, if you look at Parliament, if you look at some of these papers, you look at the discussion on TV there, Brian Kennedy, these people are hostile to the United States of America, not neutral. They're hostile to the United States of America, sir.
Severe downsides to Donald Trump actually taking that kind of action. Imagine the increase in the price of gas at the pump for Americans. So taking a breath, not panicking, just being steady and sensible seems to me to be the right play at this moment, particularly as you look at the broader context with how Donald Trump is conducting himself, the isolation he's experiencing internationally, and the divisions he's provoking domestically.
Yeah, it's interesting because on the face of it, when you see a threat like that from a U.S. president, James, to Scott's point, you have to take it seriously. At the same time, we're just a few months, a few weeks out from the last tariff threat of an additional 10% that Trump levied against us, which was supposed to come because of that Ronald Reagan ad, and then was never spoken of again.
An important point that you just made. Donald Trump has threatened.
There's three people. Are we going to get a point of view from maybe why it's not a great idea to be going at the United States? Are we going to get that take, or are we going to get the same take, the same take, the same take?
And 3 times more tariffs than he's actually ever imposed. So the keep calm, carry on prose of the Prime Minister is the appropriate response. You can't react to everything Donald Trump says and does, but you do have to respond as a nation. And the Prime Minister obviously had a very good moment in Davos, to the point where you have Pierre Poilievre for the first time.
Why is that seen as unanimous amongst the elites in Canada, that was such a good moment? It was the exact opposite. It was Carney's worst moment as Prime Minister by a country mile. What are you doing? The most important trading partner, you're just going on and on and on about them, the entire speech, in a negative way.
Ever praising a sitting Liberal Prime Minister, because Pierre Poilievre recognizes the moment, and the Prime Minister seems to recognize the moment coming out of his cabinet retreat, that it's time to pivot and move forward and not be
What's the point of voting CPC? Does Poilievre even want to win?
Disappointed, be internally angry, be publicly stoic. And then when Parliament comes back, and as we move forward, there's never been a bigger barn door open for the Prime Minister of this country, with a union of solidarity behind him that is nonpartisan, to go forward and do big things. and be significant about that. You know, the Super Bowls around
Do what? To drive us into more poverty? What is the big thing? What benefit are we going to get out of having tariffs with America and having a hostile relationship with America? Do these people even know basic economics? I think all these people should go back to first year university and sit there and study.
corner a couple weeks away. We're supposed to have these sort of installments of major projects across the country. There's a moment here for the Prime Minister to do something really significant and show Canadians that we are united and we're doing big things as a country.
You know, it will be a really interesting, it feels like,
like a pipeline. People will say that, and then anytime there's a new project that comes up, well, no, we can't do that. That's environmentally unfriendly. That's not net zero. The indigenous people, the indigenous leaders, I should say, will be upset. No. Don't actually do anything. Just say we're going to do stuff.
Clean return to Parliament tomorrow for exactly the reason that James lays out. The opportunity for the government is massive. To the point about Pierre Poilievre, like, there's a ton of rhetoric from the opposition, including the Conservatives, actually at this moment, about advancing those priorities together, which is not something, to be honest, that like on any side you normally hear ahead of a return to Parliament, like at least not in the last little while.
And it speaks to the change in tone and what's needed, right? And that tone shift for the Conservatives is remarkable, that they're willing to cooperate, possibly do joint negotiations with the U.S. But what I found interesting from this morning and the Prime Minister was really the pushback that he got from one journalist. He got basically one question put to him this morning, and it was, have you mortgaged Canadians' affordability because you've angered Trump? And bringing it back to those key issues that Canadians care about like how people are struggling day to day. And Wap Canoe said it best in your best last interview, which was just like, he's got to do all the things at all the time, Prime Minister Carney. He's got to deal with the affordability threats, the political threats, and the electoral instability that the minority is, and then also deal with the geopolitical stuff. But I think what was fascinating is that
all these people value the geopolitical stuff, aka standing up to Trump, way above everything else, way above average concerns for a Canadian.
He did say this morning, the Prime Minister, that there would be some affordability measures coming soon. So what are they? Are they on the agenda? How does he deal with the Conservatives' pushback on affordability, immigration, crime? Can he solve those political challenges? So if there is an election, the Liberals are poised to do better, or at least answer that big question of affordability on the problem. We've seen them cut taxes in the past. Will they do more in the future?
Yeah, to what degree,
they
Scott,
value Trump derangement way above all that other stuff.
do you think there needs to be like something tangible on that front? I know we're all consumed at this sort of esoteric level with everything going on with the United States and moral clarity and all those things, but like people are worried about the same thing they were worried about last year and the year before, a lack of affordability.
I'm not sure now's the exact moment where we need to just, stencil a check and send it to every household. I don't know that that's the appropriate response. I think giving voice to the concerns that people have, making certain
this guy, is he open about the fact he doesn't care about affordability?
that Canadians don't watch the Prime Minister, see how he's involved in these discussions, both internationally and across the border with Donald Trump, and worry that maybe the Prime Minister and the government have forgotten about the daily struggles that people are experiencing. You got to make certain that you address that. You got to make certain that you connect all of this instability that stems from Trump with
that you address it. And this is not because of Trump. Give me a break, dude. The economic problems Canada has very little to do with Trump. It existed far before he got into office. Is this guy actually saying, oh, just tell them that just tell them, just address it?
The challenges that people are feeling and with your policy remedies. But I don't know that they need to do something in the immediate term, again, in a panicky way. And that really is not the recipe the Prime Minister tends to follow. I think more important than anything, we shouldn't underestimate the connection that Canadians themselves make between Donald Trump's erraticism and their own economic situation. I do think Canadians lay this at the feet.
This guy is an idiot. This guy sucks, man. Scott Reed, what a clown. There's no other way to frame it. This guy's an idiot.
Their own economic situation. I do think Canadians lay this at the feet of Donald Trump. And that's why it was smart of Pierre Poilievre to ignore all those conservatives who are jamming the pages of the National Post with numbskull commentary, trying to align themselves and, say, actually Trump's right. That is not.
He's probably talking about like Tristan Hopper, maybe some other people, but man, Canadians, if they're smart, You don't blame your economic situation on Trump. Trump wasn't in office 2 years ago. The same situation was here in Canada.
Not the play that Pierre Poilievre supported. He knows that that is electoral disaster, and instead saying we got to chart a similar course.
I've got 30 seconds left for both. 30 seconds for James and 30 seconds for Kathleen. James, what do you think about that?
I think that's exactly right. One of the reasons Donald Trump's domestic support is cratering is because he's talking about golden domes and Greenland and Nobel Prizes. The prime minister of this country and Pierre Poilievre, who aspires to be the prime minister of this country, needs to focus on the things that Canadians care about and not get sidetracked. The difference between us and the United States is that the cost of living crisis, if you're an auto worker, Donald Trump is your cost of living crisis because he's threatening your job. So these two things are not actually mutually exclusive. They're combined. If you farm canola on the prairies, access to that Chinese market is a job issue and it is a cost of living issue. So focus on the horizon. Keep selling products to the world. Don't get bullied by Donald Trump. Canada first. That should be the ethos for everybody.
I'll crystallize it in one line.
Canada first. Now we can be Canada first. This is so crazy.
First. That should be the ethos for everybody.
I'll crystallize it in one line. Americans are watching as President Trump chooses to kidnap and kill his own citizens as opposed to lowering prices. Canadians are watching that in horror and want our government to chart a new path and a new way forward.
Okay, so when Steve Bannon says people in Canada on the TV are hostile, openly hostile toward America, he's clearly correct. What are you doing? All these people on the panel, this is so unpatriotic. They're living in a fairy tale. This isn't the way the world works. You got to deal with America. Trump's going to be president for another 3 years. There's a very good chance the Republicans are going to take over. All this talk about his approval rating being so low, there's not this massive spread. Maybe the Democrats have a little bit higher of an approval rating than they did during the election, but this is the way American politics goes. There are peaks and valleys. Trump doesn't have some crazy low approval rating. The American economy isn't tanking. It's doing quite well. This is unpatriotic and shameful behavior by this entire panel.
The ethos for everybody.
Especially this last comment.
I'll crystallize it in one line. Americans are watching as President Trump chooses to kidnap and kill his own citizens as opposed to lowering prices. Canadians are watching that in horror and want our government.
What is wrong with you?
To chart a new path and a new way forward.
Okay, I'm going to leave it there. Guys, thanks very much for making the time in the conversation. Kathleen Monk,
That's good. Okay, so your Trump derangement syndrome. Is a Canadian supposed to put food on the table with that? Is Trump derangement syndrome supposed to be fueling our economy? Pathetic. With that said, thanks for watching the video. Like and subscribe. Have a great day.